The board game industry has been virtue signaling so hard that they love their little cheap Chinese components and they love the little slave labor that they get from over there so much that they'll do anything to maintain that. And so they are flailing left and right, and nobody's been more at the forefront of this than Jamie Stegmaier of Stonemire Games. He's produced games like Wingspan, Viticulture, and more. And, of course, he relies on this stuff. He really does. And he's not only said that he's going to sue President Trump, which is pretty funny by itself, because, obviously it's his own bad business practices that have got himself right into this situation. But on top of it, he's also going to be doubling down, producing more game components in China. It's like, wow, this seems like a bad business decision. You've had a month plus now of these tariffs, like, at least you knew they were coming, and you didn't get any operations going. You didn't try to build things in different companies or give different countries. Instead, you've just doubled down and tried to dig your heels in to try to force foreign policy change for a country that is completely screwing us over for a long, long time. And of course, the board game industry has been one of the worst components about all this. All the time, these people virtue signaling about trans rights and all this stuff all the time, equality. They're out there using slave labor from China to produce these things at a cheap thing to get them into your little local Target store. And so this is not a small company. Again, this is a 2 million plus seller, this Wingspan right here, that is in Target stores and the like. And so, boo-hoo. Go produce them somewhere else. Your margins are going to be a little lower for a bit, and buck it up. But no. SJWs always double down. We'll get into this in just a moment. Please hit the like and subscribe button as we talk about all things in gaming, my friends. I am a fantasy author, and I would love for you to check out my Demon's Eye novel. This is a classic fantasy, strong male lead that is fighting against a real evil. It's good versus evil. It's good stuff. If you like the old sword and sorcery stuff, this is going to be a great book for you. It's only $4.99. It's available on Kindle for you, and it's also got a print version if you prefer to read that way. I appreciate you guys for reading, making this such a huge success as we're fighting back against the culture and against exactly what's going on here. We need to do this by making our own stuff. Eventually, I'll get into board games and the like. This is where I am for now. I'm an author that works real hard for you guys, so I'm glad you found me, and thank you for being here. And grab this in the description below. Support us. All right. So Stonemire Games, they've always been a virtue signaling crazy people. And he actually altered the Viticulture board game because it had conquistador cards in it. And these board game reviewers who are like, we are indigenous people and we're triggered by this, made a video about it. And so he changed the board game to not have those cards in it, and started writing this long screed about how it's hurtful and the like. So this guy's a massive SJW, and he's been building all this stuff in China this entire time. About a month ago, he made a rambling post about how tariffs were going to hurt the board game industry. And this was the original post that he made, saying that he's working on a new game. It's hard creating something for the future because the future looks so grim. Oh, my gosh. And so it's very interesting. We've looked at this, and we've been like, okay, so you've got your board games, right? You've got your Kickstarters making stuff. You've got direct sales. You've got all this stuff. You've got $2 million in sales. So a price hike where a board game was going to cost, $5 for you to produce is now going to cost like what, $8, $10 to produce, and it's $50 out there. Maybe even you hike your price up to $60 or so or what. And that's it, right, to produce these components if you need to do things in China. Or otherwise, you go to a country that doesn't screw over the United States and try to build these there. And that would be what you should be doing right now. But unfortunately, these people are just digging their feet in rather than doing anything like that. And so he's now threatening to sue President Trump. He says, we are joining a lawsuit that will challenge the unchecked authority of the executive branch to impose tariffs, literally something that they can do. We will not stand idly by while our livelihoods, the livelihoods of thousands of small business owners and contractors, along with customers whose pursuit of happiness we hold dear, are treated like pawns in a political game. Well, again, this is China. Really, most of the other tariffs are not that huge except for China. So this is the one spot that's got a major problem of everywhere else, and it's because of the way that China screws over the U.S. They keep their currency pegged artificially low. Of course, they keep their manufacturing low. They don't respect our internet or IP law. They steal a lot of stuff from us. And so this is very, very important. If we want to be a sustainable country long term, that's not going to be subservient to China, because we gotta not worry about your little trinket board games for a second for the short term. So you have to go find an alternative in the short term is what it comes down to. And hopefully you'll build something in the United States to make that better. So he said, we started print run of products before President took office. We face a 1450 tariff for every 10 we spend on manufacturing with a trusted long-term partner in China. So this is it. And he said there's going to be a tariff payment of nearly $1.5 million. And so that's that. He says, I lead with compassion and empathy. So legal, yeah, right. They always say these things. Legal action is low on my list. But with this new norm, the U.S., including products that have been in manufacturing process for a month, we are compelled to take action. This isn't the only action we're taking. And this is what's interesting. We have 200,000 units of reprints and 50,000 units of Vantage, plus 57 other Vantage ready to ship out. So they've been making these over the last month, knowing this has been happening. They're doubling down, making even more product in China just so they can play victim. It's like, instead of doing things differently, instead of building your business better and actually building your business so that it can weather some storms and things like that, they are just going even further and just pouring more money into this. For what purpose? I guess so that they can complain more. And that's exactly what SJWs do. They create themselves as the victims when they have themselves to blame for doing exactly what they shouldn't be doing, right? If it is that expensive, if you're going to lose money on all these units, if you're going to have a problem with all this, then stop producing things in China. I mean, that's the smartest thing to do. But look at this. They're selling to other countries. They say about 35% of our annual sales are to distributors and consumers outside the U.S., okay? So with that, I mean, you don't have those tariffs to those other countries, so it can probably offset things pretty well. So you should be able to do okay with your business, right? Well, okay. I don't understand what the problem is. Then they're saying they're storing U.S. quantities in China for now. They're going to pay warehousing in China to store most of these in hopes that tariffs will decrease by the time they need that inventory. So they don't. So listen to this. They are making extra units, hundreds of thousands, that they don't need to ship to the U.S. right now. Did you read this? And so they're suing, saying that President Trump's destroying their business when they're making product that their business does not even need. And they're making all this because it is just cheap slave labor trinkets in China that they can use, and then they claim they need equality and they're victims and things like that. Do you see how crazy this is? These people are out of control, and this entire industry's been out of control for a long, long time, and it's a big, big problem. And it's a problem that is going to remedy itself by these people making stupid business decisions because they want a virtue signal, they want to complain, they want to be the victim, they want media attention. We saw it with Cephalofair. Oh, I can never pronounce that. Games, the Gloomhaven people who went out there. They did a whole media tour to just kind of promote themselves during this whole thing. They had a $5 million Kickstarter for their last thing. They're fine. They should be, because if you had a $5 million Kickstarter, it shouldn't matter that you have an extra $10 per unit. You're okay, so you lose a couple $100,000 if you do in the delivery of this, or you just charge the customers for it, right? I mean, yes, sales are going to go down a little bit for the short term, but this needs to happen. So this is pretty wild. So this is where they're going right now. They're sending all this stuff out of this. He said, I've spent too long trying to make this game affordable. He has all these plastic components and stuff like that they've tried to do this, and like, well, just do a little price hike. That's all. He says, and he claims it's servicing the customers. So they make themselves victims, obviously, and this is all about political grandstanding and making names for themselves, and that's exactly what they're going to do here. So some of these companies are going to go so crazy on this stuff that they're going to run themselves out of business, and they have themselves to blame, because this is a short-term thing. It does need to be done. There's more important things, there's bigger global things than your stupid little components for your board games. By the way, the best board games from the 80s and all that, you could do them on pen and paper. You don't need all this crap. You got some dice. Everybody's got dice. You don't need all these little things. They look real pretty on your little table, but they don't add a lot of actual complexities to things or actual mechanics to things. These games could be played in different ways, but because you wanted to exploit this cheap labor, you got to have a marketing boost in your production quality that looks this way to outdo other competitors that have very similar looks to them. And so now you're going to have problems versus those other competitors because that's going to cost more. That's just part of how business works, my friends. It really is what it is. And the board game community has taken way advantage for way too long. And, there's going to be a reckoning. And I'm glad it's going to happen because these people have been woke activists who have been actually harming conservatives out there for a long, long time, trying to run us out of board gaming. And now they're crying. And that's it. All right, leave a comment down below with what you think about this. Please hit the like and subscribe button. I have no sympathy for these fools. Please grab my awesome book, The Demon's Eye. It's in the description below. If you like good fantasy, you're going to enjoy this. We'll be back soon.